So for me, you're averaging 0 points per game in the first quarter of these games with Jalen Hurts as the starter. You're averaging, I believe, 5 points per first half so far in these last 4 games with Jalen Hurts as a starter. This game for me would be at least a nice little starting point, jumping off point for the offense to try to get things corrected before they head into the tournament that they're just trying to be in the best position as possible to be in.
No more, Mark. No.
More? No more? No, you don't want me to do anymore?
I'm concerned for your health. I'm concerned for your health at this point, please.
No, it's fine. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. That's Devan. That's Derek. My name is Mark. Welcome, everyone, to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, as well as 6abc.com. So I think I can speak for everyone when I say about that game. So that happened. That was a game that was played. Of all the great things that happened to the NFL and going 18 weeks and wanting everything to come down to the wire, that was probably the exact opposite of the way the NFL wanted this Eagles-Cowboys game to go in week 18. But nonetheless, that's how it shook out. The Eagles did not play their starters. The Cowboys very much played their starters into the fourth quarter. Vast majority of the fourth quarter. And everyone that went on hand there at the Lincoln Financial Field there, Gunner, they got to take in a real doozy of a football game.
Well, first and foremost, the big question is, as you were pouring that espresso, prior to you pouring the espresso, did you add some of the liquid behind you in the cup first and then put the espresso in it?
No, I did not. The only thing I'll put in an espresso is a little drop of amaretto. That's about it. That's about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Now to get to your question, when I reported at 3:45, which I've known for days, and people were speculating, but I was asked just to hold it until the Eagles were close to officially releasing the inactive list and the injury list. I thought they were competitive the first half. I was impressed. They ran the football well with a bunch of backups. This kid, Jason Huntley, was hungry, played like it, The offensive line, they were down to their third center, and they ran the football very well. So once again, kudos to Jeff Stoutland for coaching these guys up to step in. And they were playing against Dallas's front seven. Dallas's back end of their defense was obviously out. The 2 starting cornerbacks were out. Starting safety was out. Gardner Minshew slept well last night because he didn't have nightmares about Micah Parsons tracking them all over the field tonight, which was a big thing as well. But I thought the Eagles ran, and they just basically ran out of steam after Dallas basically kept their starters in until, early in the fourth quarter. Eagles basically ran out of steam, but they gave the fans the money's worth for the most part for most of the game. I don't know if this bodes well or not for the team in general in terms of now getting ready for a playoff game. Hopefully it doesn't have any effect on the momentum they have been building over the last half of the season. But it was nice to see some of the younger guys, the inexperienced guys, get some much-needed reps just in case their services are called upon in the next season.
It was what I expected. It was better than I expected, actually. I thought the Cowboys were going to put up 50 points and the Eagles were going to put up a goose egg, maybe 1 touchdown. I was pleasantly surprised that we saw these guys. We have it like Tyree Jackson got his first touchdown as an Eagle. I loved seeing that, even though he did get injured, and I hope he's okay because he's been riddled with injuries throughout his entire career. But yeah, we saw Kenny Gainwell step up again and get reps in. We saw Quez Watkins even get a touchdown at the end there. So, it was what it was. It was very much the 4th preseason game we never had somehow in January. And we were playing the Dallas starter, especially in the first half. That first drive, I was shocked. I was like, wait, what? How did we just march down the field like that with all of our backups in and Dallas's starters in? So I'm not overly concerned. I think it was a good call to rest Jalen Hurts. And I know a lot of the guys were still on the COVID list. We saw Jason Kelsey go in for literally like 30 seconds, and Devontae Smith got that record. So they did what they needed to do. They put on a good show for the fans, and then they could have called it at the half. We could have started the show at half.
Yeah, but see, that's why I said at least for the first 30 minutes, it was an entertaining game. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody, especially once we found out Dallas was playing many of the starters, I don't think many people thought the Eagles were going to win this game. But, you know, the Eagles marched down the field, opening drive, great calls, sustained drive, scored a touchdown. Dallas came right back down, scored a touchdown. Eagles stayed with them for the first half. You know, it was an entertaining game. You know, a lot of people could have packed up and left at halftime, but they didn't, you know. And when you look at the comments on social media, do you think we have a chance to win this game? You know, so it was entertaining. There was a little bit of intrigue, but the game ended the way I thought it would. Dallas pulled away because they played their number ones against the Eagles, numbers 3s and 4s, you know, for much of the second half. So the game is exactly what I thought it was. But here's my biggest relief, that there were no texts, no social media SOSs from Devan, who was basically saying, you know, I don't want to watch this game. I can't take it anymore. You know, at least she knew going into the game that she would have inner peace and wouldn't have to worry about the outcome of the game because the frontline guys for the Eagles weren't playing. So I was happy that she was able to sit back, collect her thoughts, and have inner peace before we did the show.
Were you, though? Because I feel like I was going to text you because I thought that you might miss my frantic text and my anxious text asking you to give me some peace of mind, and you just kind of making it a little bit worse and laughing at my pain. No.
Don't get me wrong. I missed the text, but I'm just saying I'm happy. I'm glad you're smiling. There's no scowl. You didn't have.
Do I usually have a scowl?
No tension, no anxiety. From start to finish, you were calm, right? Because
very calm.
You were expecting the outcome.
Yeah. And you know what? And maybe that's why in the first half, like, I feel like they played so well because there was no pressure. They were just kind of out there doing their thing. Right. So yeah, I guess I felt that. Honestly, my biggest concern, and it still is a concern, is that I will fall asleep. I need about 10 of Mark's espresso shots. But otherwise, pretty cool, calm, and collected, like Jalen Hurts over here. Thank you. I need an espresso martini, I think. It's been a day. And so do you.
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's what I was going to say, Devan, because I know what a jam-packed day you've had. You had a lacrosse game earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and say you weren't texting Gunner simply because you're trying to rest the thumbs for a little bit later in the day. So that I understand. But before I go any further with this, let me just make sure I remind everybody of a couple of things. One, we are presented by the great people at Ocean Casino Resort here on 6abc.com, as well as the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. And don't forget to book your summer of 2022 weekend at Ocean Casino. Book it now and go for the live shows. Go for the win. The summer of 2022 is going to be spectacular. And how about this? You mentioned Devontae Smith setting the record for receiving yards in a single season by an Eagles rookie, albeit with an 18-week schedule, 17-game schedule, that is. Broke the record. People, make sure you check out the JAKIB Media Twitter account, because if you go there, you can find out how you could win a Devontae Smith jersey. We got some we're giving away, so make sure you go to the JAKIB Media Twitter page and make sure you check out that account and find out how you can win yourself a nice Devontae Smith jersey. With that being said, am I the only one that thought this game really sucked? Am I the only person that watched this game, even in the first half? And I give them all the credit in the world for the Eagles being in this game more so than they were in the game they were actually trying to win in week 3. However, I don't understand for the life of me how you could be a head coach or a player in the NFL. And I'll blame the coaches in the front office before I blame players, because they're not making the decision as to who plays and who doesn't. But how can you preach down the stretch of a season where you just got to get in the tournament and anything can happen? How can you preach that type of attitude? And then when you have an opportunity to maybe give yourself a better seeding in the playoffs, in the tournament, as they call it now, it's the trendy way to refer to the playoffs. How do you not try to give yourself that better position where you had an opportunity to at least better your chances of getting at least the 6th seed in the postseason, as opposed to just saying, well, we're in at least at the 7, so we'll just take it as it may. But if San Francisco loses tomorrow in their game against the Rams, the Eagles have an opportunity to at least move up as a 6th seed in the playoffs. That's one aspect as to why you should have played your starters for at least a little bit tonight, maybe a quarter, maybe a half. And the other thing is Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, this Eagles offense as a whole, their starters have been terrible in the early goings of games over the last 4 or 5 starts of Jalen Hurts as the number 1 quarterback of this football team, taking away that Jets game, of course, right? So for me, you're averaging 0 points per game in the first quarter of these games with Jalen Hurts as a starter. You're averaging, I believe, 5 points per first half so far in these last 4 games with Jalen Hurts as a starter. This game for me would be at least a nice little starting point, jumping off point for the offense to try to get things corrected before they head into the tournament that they're just trying to be in the best position as possible to be in.
First of all, whether you're number 6 or number 7, you're going to face, in all probability, Tampa Bay or the Rams first game. Pick your poison, number 1. Number 2, your starting quarterback is playing on a less than 100% ankle, okay? What if he went out and tweaked it in the game tonight? Your initial comments off the top of the show would be, why was Nick Sirianni playing my starting quarterback tonight when he knew he had a bad ankle?
Nope.
Okay, so what do you gain? What do you gain by moving up one spot? You're going to play the Rams or the Buccaneers.
Yes.
Doesn't make a difference. You got guys who are nicked up. You want them healthy. People are talking about, it could disrupt their chemistry, their flow. No, you play 17 games. You know what? These guys, the frontline guys, have earned some time off. They're playing with house money right now. Nobody thought this team would be a playoff team. Okay, so basically, they're giving you something you didn't expect. Even your owner told you last offseason, this is a transition season. Translation, hey, don't expect us to be a playoff competitor in 2021. Lo and behold, they fooled us all. They went to a running game, which is the strength of this offense now. And yes, we take into consideration who they played. You can say they played the Saints. Okay, yeah, they played the Saints, a team that was decimated by injuries, but it was the same Saints team that went out and shut out Tampa Bay. They shut out Tom Brady. Yeah, they played the Giants. Well, the Giants had beaten them a couple of weeks before. They came back and took care of the Giants. They played 2 tough games against Washington. Yes, 1 game against Washington. They were decimated by COVID and injuries. The next game, they still had some injury problems, but they had more healthy players back. You get in a tournament any way you can. And for a bunch of young guys who do not have playoff experience, no matter what happens from this point on, the playoff experience they're going to gain, you can't measure that for what they're building for the future in terms of a core group of young players who just went through 17 games, who learned how to win games, even though they didn't play against the elite teams down the stretch. You still have to win those games, because if they didn't win those games, we'd be sitting here talking about Eagles suck. They lost to the Jets. They lost to Washington twice. You got in the playoffs. Your team is relatively healthy. Okay. So I don't disagree. Now there's an argument for what you're saying. You should try to move up. I get that, but I don't have a problem with Nick Sirianni's decision to sit his frontline guys and have his team at full strength for a much better clientele of competition. Because as we saw in the front half of the season, they didn't do too well against better teams, number 1. Number 2, they didn't beat a team with a winning record. So now that they've gone through the gamut of playing this whole season, let's see what they can do now that they have a whole different, bowl of confidence compared to what they had when they were 2-5.
So I don't understand where they get the confidence, though, if they know going into the playoffs, they sputter out of the gates against the bad teams and have to rally late in those games to try to get back in those games to try to win. So
because they changed their identity. They changed their identity. They learned how to win. You have to learn how to win before you can win. Teams who are trying to build, you have to get to the playoffs to understand what the playoffs are about. You have to win before you learn how to win bigger games. Okay. Sure. So they took their lumps early on by passing the ball more than they ran the football. People are screaming, run the football. Starting with that Detroit game, they finally ran the football, changed their identity, start putting together a string of wins. And even a couple of close games, they learned how to win those games. You go back to the Washington game, the first game. Washington jumps out to a 10-0 lead. Eagles take the lead. Fourth quarter, Washington gets within 3. Eagles finally pull away. Washington the second time. Tough, close game. Eagles found a way. Rodney McLeod saves the day with a pick in the end zone. You have to learn how to win those games. Those are all momentum builders. Those are all confidence builders. I don't care who you're playing at that point. You can't hold it against them what the schedule dictates. Schedule is what it is.
Oh, I don't disagree.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you. I'm just saying in general.
No, I
but
understand.
if you lose those games, we're talking about we need changes. Not us, but in general. We know this fan base. Fire Nick Sirianni. Get rid of the quarterback. Get rid of the defensive coordinator. That's all we're going to hear. Mm-hmm. But you know what? People are talking about now, hey, we're in the playoffs. We have a chance. You never know what happens. History has shown just because you're a higher seed. Now, the percentages show the majority of the time the higher seed will win. But there are those instances where lower seeds have risen up and shocked the world. And with the Eagles running the football the way they've run the football, number one, they can control the clock. You can keep these high-powered offenses off the field. And if they put 7s on the board instead of 3s, it's a much closer game. And who knows what can happen.
Mm-hmm. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying as far as putting yourself in the best possible position. I get that. But I'm not going to be any more confident in this Eagles team going up against those upper echelon teams that you already haven't beaten, like you said earlier in the season, because they can't get out of the gate. And what have we said against, like, the thing is, it's not like we're just supposed to judge the Eagles against the Jets or the Giants or Washington. It's to take how they played in that game and say, all right, can this win against the Bucs? Can this win against the Rams? Can this win again against the Cowboys if you face them in the first round? And the answer to that question is no, because you can't sputter out of the gate in the playoffs with this type of team, especially if you're a run-first team, because as we all know, it's not like you're just going to put up points left and right as a running football team. So that's what has me more concerned. That's why, and I always go back to the guy that's more famous in Philadelphia than probably anywhere that he played, Joe Webb. If you remember that Tuesday night game where the Eagles, we all know what happened. After that, there was a question as to whether or not the Eagles, whose offense was sputtering after the Giants game where they had the Miracle at the Meadows Part 3, and they did not play their starters in the final game of that season, they again sputtered in the playoffs. So that, to me, is in the back of my head, not just because of Joe Webb and what happened Tuesday night, but also after that, a high-flying offense at one point in the season all of a sudden started to sputter. So I always get concerned about momentum going into the playoffs, not necessarily just winning, but how an offense is clicking, how a defense is playing overall right before the playoffs. So I want the Eagles to be in that best possible position, whether that be in the 6th seed or whether that be the offense. The second thing I was talking about, the offense actually building that momentum up. Again, 0 points in the first quarter in their last 4 games where Jalen Hurts has been their starter, and averaging 5 points in the first half over those 4 games. That's atrocious. Now, if it's Jalen Hurts' ankle that kept him out, that I 100% understand. But he's also the same guy that looked at Nick Sirianni and said, call whatever you got to, coach. I'm your guy.
Did he say in that voice,
He said it just like that. You know what he did after that? He poured himself an espresso.
There you go.
And he went back into the game. And I swear that's not the espresso. This was my feeling going into the game, that I at least wanted to see Jalen Hurts out there for the first quarter, maybe, I don't know, maybe a handful of series. I just wanted to see him out there just to try to establish that momentum in the early goings of that game.
And
but hear me out.
Okay, Devan, go ahead. Yeah.
Why not ride the confidence and the high while you have it? You know, what if Jalen Hurts went in this game, and we all saw how he played against Dallas the first time, played terribly, got maybe roughed up his ankle more, like maybe not a terrible injury, and then he's going into the playoffs a little shaken up. Their confidence is down. I think no one's going into this, and I would hope and assume that the players and Nick Sirianni aren't going into the playoffs thinking that they're going to go win the Super Bowl. But I think, especially this season, the parity in the league is truly, this is the most unpredictable season I've seen in recent memory. Sorry, I've been talking a lot today. Words are hard sometimes. But that being said, I think, like, I support the move in not starting Jalen Hurts. I do agree that the slow starts are an issue, but I think that maybe it could have hurt more than it would have helped had they started Jalen Hurts and the other starters today. Gotcha.
Something else, you mentioned a couple of guys already, Gunner, that really had a great game this particular night. Huntley had a great game for the Eagles tonight. Kenny Gainwell came out there. Devin, you mentioned him. Gardner Minshew, I believe, and I think this is one of the things that drove people just bonkers tonight watching the game. Gardner Minshew was a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside catch in the end zone away from getting a lot more out of this fan base than he's already gotten. Let's just say that. If J.J. Arcega-Whiteside comes down with that touchdown reception in the early goings of the third quarter, which I believe would have made the score at the time 30-24, I think we would have been talking a lot different about not just J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and talking about how he's just not really worth bragging about, let's put it that way. But also Gardner Minshew having himself a much better game than some people were willing to give him credit for coming out of tonight. Would have been 30-24 if J-Jaw came down with that reception, didn't get called for the offensive pass interference, and then, of course, got called for offensive pass interference, but the penalty was declined on the very next play.
Yeah.
Couldn't, just when you thought it couldn't get worse,
You saw the light. You saw the light go out of his eyes. He was so excited for like 1 second. And I was almost I was like, oh, he finally is having his moment. You know, he's finally got a catch.
Listen,
and then
you're talking about him like he's a puppy. Oh,
I know. And like, that's wrong. I should not be.
But see, it would have been a Minshew moment. It wouldn't have been Minshew mania all over again. It would have been a Minshew moment because Nick Sirianni squashed that notion a couple of weeks ago when he said, Jalen Hurts is my starting quarterback, which is what a smart coach should have done. Squash all that noise right now. Whether you like the decision or not, this is who my quarterback is from this moment forward, as long as he's healthy enough to play. And that's the way it should be, because it's Jalen Hurts who's being evaluated for 2022 more so than Gardner Minshew. Okay? So you want to give him every opportunity you can to succeed, whether you agree with that or not. Yes, there are people on the Minshew side, people on the Hurts side. I get that. But your coach put it in his proper perspective when he said, this guy is my starting quarterback when healthy, come hell or high water.
Just real quick, guys, I want to point out that in the chat, and we are trying to keep an eye on the chat as we do throughout every show, there's a Cowboys fan in there named William who is actually bragging about his first teamers playing against the backups of the Eagles, which is just about as Dallas Cowboy fan as it gets. So welcome in. Everyone have fun with William tonight. Make sure you have yourselves a good old time, of course. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to be joined by John McMullen from Lincoln Financial Field. He'll be breaking it down for us when it comes to all the post-game analysis, what Nick Sirianni had to say about this game, what Gardner Minshew had to say. Maybe John will be able to tell us what it is exactly, JJ Arthega-Whiteside, what is it? What do you do here, JJ Arthega-Whiteside? Like, what exactly do you do here? We'll talk to John about that. We'll also get some more reaction. And for the first time ever, it only took 18 weeks, we're going to have a little bit of a quiz show right here on the postgame show. For those that don't know, there's a couple of names that aren't that familiar that actually got into the game tonight. Gunner, Devan. We're going to have some fun with that a little bit later on.
I'm excited.
But I do want to tell people, if you want to have yourselves a good time, how about this? Grab a Stateside Vodka Soda from Stateside Vodka. That's statesidevodka.com. Grab a Stateside Vodka Soda or try the new Surfside Iced Tea by Stateside Vodka. See the scroll below and use the promo code JAKIB for 15% off the very popular Stateside Vodka Soda. Go to statesidevodka.com. We'll be back with more live post-game show in a few.